This is John Kohler with OKRaw.com. Today I have another exciting episode for you and have my good friend here, Paul Neeson, and we're going to share some thoughts with you about eating animals and non-plant-based foods or non-vegan foods. You know, lately there's been a lot of controversy in the raw world about eating animals, not eating animals, and all this kind of stuff. So in this video, we're just going to simply share our opinions on that subject because everybody has a different opinion. While I'll never say what I think you should do, you know, I'm definitely going to share my opinions, and you know, I encourage everybody to make their own choices based on that and not just go by dogma, because that's one thing that Paul and I pretty much don't agree on is dogma, not to live by any dogma, whatever that is. So recently Paul was in actually a video, and the title of the video was 18-year raw vegan promotes animal products. So that's what I want to ask Paul about today and find out more about his views on animal products, if he thinks they're healthy, if he thinks they're unhealthy, if he thinks people should eat them, and actually also, you know, actually why he promotes them to some extent. So Paul, why don't we take one question at a time? So do you promote the use of animal products in a person's diet?
Well, it depends what you mean by promoting. I don't go out there and have signs telling people they need to eat animal products. And I certainly don't say people can't live on a vegan diet healthy, because I know it can be done. You and I do it.
Yeah.
However, if somebody asks me, are animal products unhealthy? And I say not necessarily, it depends. If they're eating the standard American animal products that are gotten at your local meat factory, they're very unhealthy. But if somebody's raising their own animals and, you know, feeding the animals correctly, then the animals can be somewhat healthy. It's not what we're adding, it's what we're leaving out. And when you leave out all the drugs and everything else, it's a big difference. For example, when I tell somebody there's a difference between raw goat milk from the goats on a local farm that a family's raising and feeding that animal just grass versus the standard American milk that's in the supermarket that the animal's been pumped up with hormones and is fed sawdust and a whole bunch of other garbage, there's a big difference in that final product. So can one be healthy and one not be healthy? Yes. So by me saying yes, am I promoting it? Well, there's a lot of people out there that don't want to eat a raw vegan diet like you and myself. And we want people to be healthy with whatever they're doing. So if you're not ready to eat a raw vegan diet or even a vegetarian diet, and you feel you want to consume animal products, and I know a lot of your viewers don't want to do that, so they look against that, but there are people out there. A big question we get often is, how do my loved ones, how can we get them to eat healthy? Well, if they're willing to go raw vegan, wonderful. But if they're not, explain to them the difference between healthy animal products and unhealthy animal products, and at least that's a step in the right direction. So by me saying that, some people might take it that I'm promoting animal products. I wouldn't necessarily say it'd be my first choice for somebody's best health, but I will say there's a healthy way to eat animal products and an unhealthy way to eat them.
I see. Well, I totally agree with Paul. Coming from like the urban farming background, I think, you know, in my opinion, if you want to eat animals, this is what I believe. I believe you should raise the animals from a baby, slaughter them yourself, kill them yourself, and then eat the meat, because then you're going through the whole process. I really don't like when people just go to the store and buy little packages of meat already pre-made and pre-made for them. You know, like my cousin said, John, the only reason why I eat meat is because it looks so nice and easy. Like if I had to kill my own animal, I wouldn't eat it. And I encourage everybody, if they want to eat animals, which I personally don't, and I don't think it's healthy, although growing it yourself and killing yourself is far better and can be healthier than the alternative products in the stores that are pumped up full of antibiotics and, you know, fed GMO corns. So the next question I have for you, Paul, specifically is, you know, based on my research and my understanding is that, you know, while the animal products that are raised, you know, in a home environment by yourself or by an organic farm are healthier in the sense that they don't have the bioaccumulation of such the high levels of toxins, they do also still contain toxins in their meat, their flesh, but more importantly, they contain animal protein, which it is my understanding that the human body sees that as a foreign protein, and the human body attacks the foreign protein. So what are your thoughts on this concept, Paul?
Well, I wouldn't say it's not healthy to eat animal products that are raised the correct way. I wouldn't say it's not healthy, because I know a lot of people that eat animals, and some of them are very sick and some of them are somewhat healthy. I think a bigger issue is how much they're eating of it. If somebody's eating even a vegetarian vegan diet, but they're overdoing it or eating at the wrong times or not eating the highest quality food, that's not a healthy diet. But if somebody's eating a raw vegan diet where the majority of their food is raw vegan, the body has an amazing system where it's going to keep the good and get rid of the bad. But if you're doing it the opposite way and eating a lot of the bad, the body can't keep up with that. But when it comes to eating animals and so on, there are nutrients in those animal products that the body can use to thrive. However, if we take too much of that in, then it creates a problem. It's much easier to overeat animal products because it has so many of those nutrients in the area of what they're eating. However, it also has toxins as well. It's almost like unorganic produce. Just because it's unorganic and has toxins, does that make it an unhealthy food? Well, if we overdo it, it definitely will. But can we eat a small amount of unorganic food and still be completely healthy and consider that food healthy? I believe there are some unorganic foods that can be considered healthy. Maybe not as healthy as the organic foods. And matter of fact, I know a farmer in Ohio that says his unorganic produce is much higher in nutrient content than his organic produce. Whether it's the fertilizer he used or whatever the reason was, he had the food tested and his unorganic food had much more nutrients. So in that case, the unorganic food would have been healthier. Well, with animal meat, for someone to just say it's not healthy, I wouldn't just say that, and for that reason some people might think I'm promoting it, but no, I promote a raw vegetarian diet if somebody's willing to do that, and if somebody wants to eat the animal products, get the best you can get and do the best you can do with what you got. And there's no one answer for everyone. We have to look at where we're living as well. I live in a tropical environment. I think a raw, vegan, vegetarian diet would be best for me. If I was living in Alaska or a very cold environment, I still think I could do a vegetarian diet by getting soups and some cooked food. And there are some unique people that might even be able to do raw, but it would be a bigger challenge. However, if somebody's eating high-fat or meat-based products here in the tropics versus somebody who's living in a northern climate and eating meat-based products, we have to take all the variables into consideration, and that's something to consider. I know there are people that do well on a meat-based diet living up north. So I even know people that do well living on a meat diet living here down south, but there's so many different variables. So I wouldn't say there's one best way for everyone. We have to do what's best for us.
I guess I want to dive into a little bit further. I would never compare non-organic produce with non-organic animal products. While non-organic produce may have a bioaccumulation of toxins, like animals are fed, for the most part, non-organic produce, and then they bioaccumulate a lot more toxins than produce. Another thing is, even with conventional versus organic, that's just like the label. And just because it's organic or conventional doesn't mean anything about the nutrition in there. And that's why I always encourage you guys to grow your own food in mineral-rich soils, adding the trace minerals, the rock dust, the ocean solutions, and C90 products, and compost, good organic matter, so that you can grow your own highest quality foods, whether you want to feed those to the animals and then eat the animals. I just think that we don't need to get our nutrients secondhand. And further on the animal proteins, like those are foreign proteins. Like say for some reason I lost my kidney and I needed a kidney transplant, and if you were my blood type, I'd be glad to accept your kidney if you give it to me, because it'd be a pretty good clean kidney. But as soon as I got your kidney transplanted into me, I would have to take immunosuppressive drugs, which basically would lessen my immune system, because even though you're human and I got your kidney to help me live, my body would reject it because it's not me. And that's what happens when you eat animal products, any animal products. I don't care if it's the farm pasture, farm raised, organic, out in pristine nature, or the ones that you've raised and slaughtered yourselves in your home. That's always going to happen no matter what. And that's basically what's called leukocytosis. So leukocytosis is increasing of the white blood cell count that happens with only animal products, and not even necessarily cooked vegan foods. It won't happen. But the animal products will do that. Do you have any comments on that, Paul?
Well, I actually heard you could get that from cooked food.
Well, there's been some testing done lately, and I had Dr. James Sheridan on a show. If you take a look at my past shows, and he's done testing with that, and even cooked vegan junk foods did not cause leukocytosis. And I know we were taught way back in the day about only cooked foods cause leukocytosis, but he's found that this only happens with any animal products, not even cooked vegan products.
Well, I've heard different, but all I'm going to say is that, I'm not going out there promoting eating animals, but I will have to say, if you do the studies on it, there's never been a tribe or a bunch of people that lived on a raw vegetarian or even a vegetarian diet over the years, but animal products people have been able to use and always used in even a small amount, and the healthiest people around the world, that's what they've done. I'm not saying there might be a unique person who's done it different, but from the studies and the history, that's what it shows. Now again, that might seem like I'm promoting eating animals. I want to be that first one to prove it wrong and live to 120 on a raw vegan diet. I did try to include some animal products in my diet a couple of years ago, and though it wasn't bad for me, I still felt best on a raw vegan diet, so I know that's best for me. Hallelujah Acres has been promoting a vegan diet for many, many years based on the Genesis 1:29 of the Bible, and they were very adamant about keeping animal products out of their diet completely. But after doing many tests, they decided to add fish oil to their diet because of their test and their science test and everything else. They did extensive tests for many, many years, and they've decided to add fish products or fish oil into their vegan or vegetarian diet. So you can't dispute or just not count those studies. And when you mention other raw fooders that say that animal products are no good, how many of them are just giving their feelings or actually have done the testing? And when I see places like Hallelujah Acres, probably the world's biggest vegetarian organization out there, or at least one of them, starting to add fish oil into the diet because they found that the vegetarians weren't thriving until they added this fish oil. I'm not promoting fish oil. I don't take fish oil, but you have to say something about that.
Right. Yeah. So, right. I mean, one of the reasons for this video is actually to give you guys options, to let you guys hear our views on these products so that you can figure out what you want to do instead of blindly listening to the guru or the guy that you always listen to. And, I like to just comment on the Hallelujah Acres. I mean, I don't really know about that, but I know that one of the reasons why people promote fish oils are for the essential fatty acids, that if you're not doing a plant-based diet properly, you might not get all the essential fatty acids. So the reason for the fish oils are the DHA. The fish don't make those up spontaneously in their diet. They eat algae to make those oils. So I think it'd be cool, and I don't know if they've looked into this, to do like algae-based supplements is what the fish would eat so that we could get those nutrients in us. I mean, after all, if you're eating a lot of greens, you're eating what the cow should be eating and you're getting the nutrients secondhand. And if you're eating fish oils or fish, you're getting, secondhand what the fish ate, which is the algae. And that's why, I like to include some algae-based supplements into my diet. Paul, what do you think about the algae supplements?
Well, before I get to that, I do have to say that for a raw foodist or a vegetarian to really get so upset that somebody's eating animals or eating meat, they're just doing the same exact thing that the meat eater might get upset that somebody's not eating meat or talking about being a vegetarian. And really, it's an argument or a discussion that I don't even talk about that much because it's really irrelevant. It's like we need to be healthy, and we got to do what's going to make us healthy. And some people might include animal products, and some people might be vegetarians but do other things that aren't best for them. We got to do as much as we can do. And also, in reality, that we enjoy doing, because we're not going to do it for a long time. I'd much rather see somebody eating some animal products in a small amount and eating mostly fruits and vegetables and enjoying their walk than somebody who's eating an all-raw vegan diet or an all-vegan diet and just hating what they're doing. That stress from hating what they're doing is going to be more harmful to their health than if they ate a little bit of animal products. And from a diet standpoint, animal products have nutrients, and yes, they can have toxins, and vegetables have nutrients, and they can have toxins if it's unorganic. Now, each person has to decide for themselves what's best. I certainly don't think because somebody's eating animal products, that's not the main reason they're suffering from a disease. I think we got to look at the quality of the food, the amount of the food, and the time it's being eaten, plus with all the other factors of where we live, our stress levels, and so on, and then determine if the animal products are a factor in what's going on. It might actually be helping some people.
All right, Paul. So yeah, I definitely agree that animal products have toxins, and non-organic plant products may contain toxins, but I think far more critical is that the animal products do contain toxins, and it's a lot stronger science from what I've seen in my research that shows that I don't want to eat animal products. So next we're gonna ask Paul, and I'll answer.
I could tell you that somebody that has raising their own goats, grass-fed goats, and they're drinking goat milk, versus somebody that's getting a tomato from who knows where, what's been done to it scientifically, and on top of that, what it's sprayed with, and so on. I think that goat milk's gonna have a lot less toxins than that tomato you might cut inside and see a fish head or a strawberry.
Well, me and Paul differ on some things, but I mean, overall, like, we agree on like most things. We're gonna differ on this a little bit, but next is a pretty important question, Paul. We're gonna ask you specifically about how much percentage of animal products do you think is allowable, or would you, or because you're saying that some animal products are all right. How much is the maximum limit that you would, talk about, or whatever?
I think it would be foolish for me to even try to say that, because it has to be different for everyone based on many variables. I think I always promote at least 75 to 80% of our diet should be raw fruits and vegetables. As to how much of other things people can eat and what they can eat and what's best for them, there's so many different situations, so I can't even say.
So, but by definition, that 75 to 85% should be raw. That leaves between 15 to 25% could be animal products.
It means at least between 1% and 25%, so who knows if it's that person that does a small amount of animal products every day, or is it that person that does a small amount of animal products once a month? I know there's a fellow in Australia who I've interviewed in my book, and he's been eating a raw vegan diet for many, many years, and he believes everybody needs to eat a small amount of animal products, maybe the size of a quarter, every single day in their diet. And if you want to talk about practicality, I mean, as long as you and I have been eating a raw vegetarian diet and other people have, this man has been doing this longer than many of us put together, and he's come up to that conclusion, and he does better with that. So, and that's what he says, something like the size of a silver dollar, that's what he thinks is important every day. So we can't really say, and it's different for everyone, and I can tell you now, the way we're thinking, we might think different, and a year from now we might not. There's so many different things. So for anyone to say, and that's a problem I have when people come out with a raw version of their diet or something, and they say, well, everyone should eat this amount of this and this amount of protein and this amount of fat and so on. Well, everyone's different and in a different situation, so we have to look at this on an individual basis.
All right. Well, yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with Paul. Like, if you are consuming animal products, it should be a minimal amount. While I don't do it, and I don't necessarily advocate eating animal products either. If you do, I definitely recommend you raise them and slaughter them yourself. That way, I believe that there'll actually be, less people eating animal products. Because, I mean, could you kill your family pet to slaughter as meat? I mean, I had pet ducks, man, and there's no way that I'd ever kill the duck to eat it. I mean, this is what people do to eat meat.
Well, first of all, I would say, why don't you eat animal products?
I mean, for me, it's like they're just not healthy, and I want to build my health. I don't want to lose my health by eating animal products.
They're not healthy according to yourself?
According to my research that I've done and my experimentation. So I haven't experimented with any animal flesh in many, 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 many years, but I have eaten raw dairy. And every time I eat dairy, I get an instant mucus reaction in my throat, which tells me my body's creating mucus. It's trying to surround that. It's trying to get that toxins out of me so my body does not absorb it. But that's just me. I'm not saying that it does it to other people, because some people, like I know you had raw dairy and it agrees with you fine.
Well, there's a big difference between the raw milk from animals that don't have certain hormones versus animals that do, and there's a lot of research by Beyond Organic and Jordan Rubin about this now. So the dairy you had might not have been the dairy that's healthy dairy.
I had healthy dairy from Jeremy Saffron in Maui, Hawaii, and I'm sure he knows his stuff.
Who's a great example. Jeremy Saffron's a fellow who, if you would have interviewed him about 15 years ago, he would be saying the same exact things we're saying right now about animal products not being ideally the best thing, but now he's come to see different, and he consumes cheese and dairy, and he thinks it's very beneficial to him. So, it might not seem like the healthiest thing to us, but there are certainly people that have thought the way me and John have thought, who've changed their mind after they've done more experimentation with it, and there are certainly people out there who have stayed raw vegan. So I wouldn't say it's not healthy. I would just say, for me, it's not what I choose to do right now.
All right. I mean, I definitely would agree with that. And so what I was getting to was, my point was that I don't advocate it, I don't do it, but based on my research, if you choose to eat animal products, I would make it no more than 10% of your calories, on a daily basis. So if you're eating a 2,000 calorie diet, you'd eat no more than 200 calories in animal products. So from 0, which is what I do, to 10% max, and Paul recommends from 0 to 25% max, so we have a shared commonality. So a minimal amount of animal products, and obviously you want to do the highest quality, best raised animal products. I mean, what do you want to comment on? Why do you think some people go towards animal products? I think you were talking about John Fielder and Jeremy Saffron. They've been on a raw plant-based diet, and then they went into eating some of the animal products. I mean, why do you think that is in your mind, Paul?
Each person has their own reason, and I know why I did it, and I've explained it on many of my videos about my experimentation with it to see if it would help me or hurt me. We all want to have the greatest health we can have, and if we feel there's something we could do that might improve it, it's better to try it than to always guess, and then see, and then you can move on from there. So each person will have their own individual reason. As for killing your family pet, I wouldn't consider that the same thing as killing an animal and so on, the way you said it. And there's many different ways to look at eating animals, but we live in a world today that's so absolutely crazy. And I look at things from a biblical view and a biblical standpoint, and our Creator definitely doesn't say it's wrong or bad to eat certain animals, and other animals He says it's bad and wrong to eat. So there is a difference between certain animals and other animals, and I think it's an unfair example to compare your family pet to an animal at the store.
All right, well, I mean, in some countries they kill their family dog because they eat dog meat and stuff, and I had pet ducks, and ducks are the sweetest creatures, and millions of people eat ducks every single day, and I mean, relative of the duck is a chicken. People eat chicken all the time. I mean, if I was gonna eat animal products, I would more likely eat dairy and eggs than actually kill another creature on this earth.
Well, from a Bible standpoint, the Bible says we shouldn't be eating dogs. They don't even call that food. So there is a difference, and there are certain animals that are raised and used for food and have been since.
So what are some of these animals then, for the viewers that may not know this information?
They're known as the kosher animals that are found in the Bible, in the book of Leviticus and the book of Deuteronomy, and they're the animals that have split hooves and chew the cud, such as the cattle, the cows, and there's a whole list of the animals to eat. And it's found out, for example, in the Bible it says not to eat pork. Well, from a health standpoint, pork is a lot more unhealthy than a cow. So when it talks about this, and we're looking at it from a health standpoint, but you wanted to bring in killing an animal because of the connection we have with the animal, and I don't think that's a fair example. I mean, just look at this example. We live in the United States where it's legal to kill your own baby, but it's not legal to kill an animal. I mean, it's just, how do we separate the two? That's the world we live in today, and I don't think it's a fair example.
So what animals are meats that people would be able to find in their store that are good to eat and not good to eat? So you said pork is not good, cattle's all right.
Well, usually the animals that eat, and not exclusively, but usually the animals that are not meat-eating animals are the animals that are considered kosher. But the real way you identify them is they have a split hoof and they also chew the cud. And an animal that is a meat-eating animal are usually the animals that aren't the healthiest ones to eat.
So is chicken allowable with this definition?
It doesn't say anywhere in the Bible where chicken is not allowed.
I see. So it's interesting why, some people choose to do animal products. Now, I'm not going to put a judgment on them if it's right or wrong, but what I want to share with my viewers today is that, there's many different ways to do a raw foods diet. You could do an 80-10-10 diet. You could eat a high fruit diet. You could do a high fat diet. You could eat nothing but bananas and romaine lettuce and be a raw foodist. You could eat nothing but raw food pies and nuts and dates and be a raw foodist. I mean, what I try to do is include as many different kinds and varieties of foods as possible to give me nutrients that I might not normally get just eating out of the grocery store. That's why growing my own food, traveling around different places, and eating foods that I might not normally include, because every different food has different nutrition, just like the animals that people eat are eating different things than you are, and basically you're getting your nutrients secondhand, plus they're maybe adding some of their own nutrition to it. So I'd rather just eat what the animals ate and a wide spectrum of different kinds of leafy greens, because just because you're a raw foodist and you fail or start eating animal products, maybe you just didn't do it the best way possible and include a whole bunch of different things. Do you have any thoughts on this, Paul?
Yeah, I used to believe that when we ate food, an animal product, we weren't eliminating the middleman. Well, why don't we just eat the food directly ourselves instead of eating the animal that ate the food? Just eat the food directly. I used to believe that would be the best way, but there are certain foods, from my understanding, that are broken down by the animal stomachs that our stomachs cannot break down, so the nutrients are more accessible in those foods. For example, there are certain grasses that animals will eat, take those nutrients in their body, and it becomes part of their chemical makeup. And when we eat those animal meats, we're able to get those nutrients, as opposed to us eating the grass directly. Our body can never break down and get the nutrients from that grass. So there are certain things or reasons why that idea of not leaving the middle person in and taking them out might not be ideally the best. Now, I don't want to believe that. I want to believe a raw vegan diet is best, and for me, that's what I'm choosing to do. But when you consume dairy or tried dairy and you develop mucus, if you didn't develop mucus, you would have most likely thought it was decent to do and maybe have kept doing it. Right?
Well, no, I'd pay attention to my body and also do some blood tests and see how it affected me. Besides having the mucus, I also got constipated, which I'm never constipated on my high plant-based fiber diet. I mean, I'm always like 5 times a day I might be going to the bathroom. I mean, I might be sharing too much, but I mean, I always flow. But maybe, ate something bad and it's just coming out too fast. I'll maybe eat some cheese and it'll stop me up, so that can be used as a good thing.
Well, I would suggest that the people like Jeremy Safford and John Fielder that have been experimenting with the dairy products, they didn't have any negative effects. So that made them in their mind to think that that was good, and they kept decided to do it. So I think it's important to look at the signs of health, not just how we feel, but exactly how the body's working. I think that's important for everyone to consider when they decide if this is what they want to do. But if you have a loved one that's not ready to go on a vegetarian diet, just make sure that they avoid the factory farming and the meat that comes from that, and try to express to them the importance of eating animal meats that are healthier while they're at this point in their life, and then preferably later on they'll decide not to consume those animals at all. But don't automatically say if they're eating the animals, that's the end, because it's like when we first got into this, people used to say cooked food is poison. Well, even though we both eat 100% raw food diet, I think we both agree that it's not poison. But it's that same idea when somebody says animals are poison. Well, we don't eat it, we don't agree with it, but I don't know would you consider it poison?
I mean, I don't encourage anybody to eat animals because I just don't. They're a foreign protein and our body reacts. So when our immune system is activated, that we eat any animal, whether it's pasture raised or not, to me, that's not a good thing. Would I call it poison? I mean, it's not going to put you down, but they say, some hardcore vegans say there's the animal's revenge, because you will have higher incidences of diseases if you eat too many and too much animal products like the standard American. Hopefully in our topic today, you guys already figured out that Paul's suggesting less than 25% of your calories from animal products, and I'm suggesting less than 10 if you choose to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And, this is to help everybody there. I wouldn't even put a number on it. I would just say make sure you're getting something green in your diet every day, and not a green animal, but some leafy green. Make sure you're eating a good amount of raw fruits and vegetables. As for the amount of animal products, you have to decide what you're going to thrive on health-wise and what's going to be best for you. But certainly, the studies and history shows the way people are eating it today is way too much and needs to be reduced.
I absolutely agree with Paul. The final comments I want to make is, instead of we can't digest grass, like there's a grass field behind us, we can't digest grass, but you could take the grass and juice it, and you could grow your own wheatgrass, barley grass, kamut grass, and different kinds of grasses, and even wild grasses. You could harvest them and juice them. Then you could get the nutrition into your body, which I'd still rather do, get that firsthand than secondhand. So yes, we both would agree that, minimizing the animal consumption, and based on studies and books like the China study, that's a really good book to read if you haven't read it already. I mean, they show that minimal amount of animal products, because there's, like Paul says, there's no true vegans or plant-based eaters like anywhere. They've always eaten in history some small amounts of animal products and animal proteins, but not in the large amounts we're doing today. So I guess the whole message that I want you to take from this video is that, no matter where you are, your husband, your wife, your kids, no matter where they're at, the one thing that Paul would, and I would totally agree on, is you want to increase the amount of plant products, especially fruits and vegetables. They're the most nutrient-dense foods on the earth, and minimize and exclude maybe the animal products if you feel so. And we're not going to sit here to tell you how much or anything like that, but you need to figure that out for yourself. And I encourage you to, keep a food journal and eat different things and journal about it, whether it's plants or animals, and see how you feel and see how it makes you feel. And then also verify with blood tests and other medical tests to see where you're at, to see if you're truly healthy for you or not.
And I also would like to add too that there is a difference between animals and animal products. So eggs and milk and cheese, I would consider a different category than actually animal. So if somebody out there is concerned about the whole issue of life, when you're consuming the milk or the egg or the cheese, it's a byproduct of the animal. It's not the same as the animal. So it's something you want to consider, because I know a lot of people that do not eat animals, but they'll eat something that comes from an animal. And it's, I think there is a difference there. And if I ever went back to eating animal products, I think I would go more to the animal products and not the animals directly. I think that would be a safe way to make sure you're getting the things from the animal that you might be missing on a vegan diet if you're not doing it the correct way. Now, you certainly can do it the correct way, eating the food you grow like John teaches and so on, and get every known nutrient to man. However, if you decide to eat the animal products, I think that's a better way to go than actually consume the animals. I know there are people that might not agree, but do what's best for you, and I'm just glad that John and myself, we have an open mind, and we're not automatically saying nobody should ever do this, it's the end of the world kind of thing that a lot of people do.
I totally agree with Paul on that. I mean, if I was to eat some animal products, I would totally go with the dairy or the eggs versus slaughtering an animal. But more than that, I'd want to eat human breast milk or drink that. That'd be good. I haven't had that experience yet, and see if that gives me a mucus reaction. But all animals have been weaned. After they're, small, they don't eat the milk of other creatures anymore. That being said, it may contain some valuable nutrients, like Paul said, especially if it's fermented.
One of the things a lot of vegetarians will say is there's no other species in nature that would drink the milk of another species after they're weaned as a baby, and I don't necessarily agree with that. I think we eat for nutrition and nutrients, and I certainly know my cat drank cow's milk all the time when I had a cat. And just about any animal in nature, if they're looking for food and you put milk in front of them, and even if you put milk in a mango, sometimes they'll go for the milk. So it's the same thing. If you put two foods in front of a human, they might not always go for the milk, but sometimes they might. So I don't buy that agreement or that idea. But look, folks, do what works for you, and just stop telling everybody else they're wrong.
And I mean, once again, the whole point of this message is to eat more fruits and vegetables, whether you got to eat them whole, blended, or juiced. I mean, that's one thing Paul and I strongly agree on, and that's what we personally do because we are plant-based raw food eaters.
Sure. And I went a couple years ago, I tried the animal products. I didn't eat a lot of animal products, so I really couldn't make a fair comparison because I didn't just completely change my diet to consuming animal products, but I added some. And again, it's to compare, to say who's right or wrong. That's not the point of this message. And we know, when the videos where we promote vegetarian diet, vegans love us, and the videos where we might mention it's okay to do an animal product in a certain situation, vegans might hate us. But it's not about loving us or hating us. It's about we want you to be healthy. We both understand disease. We've experienced it. We don't want anyone else out there to suffer. So keep that in mind, and we're getting these messages out there to help you, not to get you upset. And if you are getting upset and stressed about something we said, that's not helping your health. So stop doing that, and if you have something positive to put under the video, do it. If you have something negative to put under the video, don't waste your time and go somewhere else.
All right, Paul, well said. So once again, I want to teach you guys about including things, rather than excluding things. That'll happen naturally. So include more fresh stuff, decrease the processed foods, and minimize the animal products if that's what you want to do. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode with Paul and myself. Once again, my name is John Kohler with OKRod.com. We'll see you next time, and remember, keep eating your fresh fruits and vegetables. They're the best.